I've transferred another 50,000 to your son's account. My voice echoes through the phone to my mother, carrying the weight of exhaustion that has become my constant companion over these endless months. 3 consecutive months of manufactured emergencies have drained not just my bank account, but something deeper, my faith in the family I thought I knew. Thank you, Lily. You're such a lifesaver. Relief seeps into my mother's voice. But there's something else underneath that I'm only now beginning to recognize. The tone feels too practiced, too smooth, like dialogue from a script she's rehearsed countless times for maximum emotional impact. Ethan is so grateful too, she continues, her voice taking on that particular warmth she reserves for moments when she needs something from me. Family means everything, doesn't it? This is what we do for each other. After hanging up, I sink into the silence of my apartment, a space that has become both sanctuary and prison. The familiar walls seem to press closer each month as I watch my bank balance dwindle to accommodate their latest crisis. I stare at the numbers on my screen, trying to remember when I last made a purchase for myself rather than an emergency transfer to them. I tell myself what I always do, the mantra that has sustained me through 3 years of this exhausting cycle. It's only natural for family. Good daughters sacrifice for those they love. This is what love looks like in the real world. But tonight, something feels different in the apartment's oppressive quiet. That's when my forgotten smartphone vibrates against the coffee table, the notifications sound cutting through the stillness like a blade. A video message from Aunt Susan appears on my screen, unusual since she typically prefers brief text exchanges over anything requiring emotional investment. I settle into my worn living room armchair, the same spot where I've spent countless nights calculating how much I could send home without defaulting on my own basic expenses. The familiar leather creaks under my weight, a sound that usually brings comfort, but tonight feels ominous. I press play with trembling fingers. The screen shows my familiar childhood home's living room, the same space where I learned to walk and apparently where I've been systematically betrayed. I hear my mother's laughter, completely different from her usual careful tone when speaking to me. This laughter is genuine, unguarded, and heartlessly authentic. It's so easy, really. My mother's voice rings out with casual cruelty. On screen, my father leans forward with a wine glass, his face flushed with satisfaction. Our little ATM girl. My father chuckles drunkenly, each word hitting me like a physical blow. Just say family duty, and she'll empty her entire savings without asking a single question. The room starts spinning around me. These words, this casual dismissal of everything I am, cut deeper than any wound I've ever experienced. I'm not their daughter in this moment. I'm a machine dispensing money on command. My brother Ethan's voice joins their chorus of betrayal. When I said, I need money for textbooks, she sent 10,000 without even asking what books actually cost. Their voices blend together in laughter that echoes through my apartment like breaking glass. Each laugh drives another nail into the coffin of my former understanding of family love. My hands shake uncontrollably as the screen blurs through tears I didn't realize were falling. I can't stop watching this devastating revelation unfold before my eyes. She's so desperate to be the good daughter, my mother continues with satisfaction that makes my stomach turn. Remember when she canceled her vacation to pay for the roof repairs? She didn't even question the estimate. I remember everything with crystal clarity now. Working overtime until my eyes burned from computer screens. Canceling plans with friends who eventually stopped inviting me. Giving up my dream Europe trip that I'd planned and saved for over 2 years. All for family. All for people who saw me as nothing more than a walking bank account. My father's voice continues, slurred but sharp with calculation. She's always been desperate for approval. That's why she always responds when we say, emergency. Gets her right in the guilt every time. The clinical nature of his analysis chills me to the bone. They've studied my psychology, identified my weaknesses, and exploited them with surgical precision. Something inside my chest shatters with an audible crack. Everything I had supported, protected, and loved. It was all an elaborate illusion designed to keep their personal ATM operational. On screen, my mother continues planning my financial future like I'm a resource to be harvested. We need Lily to keep being our family-oriented daughter. We have our retirement to think about, and Ethan still has 2 more years of tuition ahead. Retirement. 2 more years of tuition. As if my life were just a line item in their long-term financial plan. The video ends. The screen goes black. In that profound silence, I feel something new being born. Not the naive, people-pleasing daughter who walked into this apartment hours ago, but someone harder, more aware, infinitely more dangerous to those who would exploit her kindness. Let me go back to before I saw that video. 3 years ago, in the spring when hope still lived in my heart. The day I visited home clutching my first paycheck envelope, cherry blossoms painted the city pink and my future seemed limitless. I remember the weight of that envelope in my purse, how it pulsed with possibility and promise. Lily, welcome home. My mother greeted me at the door with what I now recognize as predatory calculation disguised as maternal pride. That smile wasn't loving warmth. It was the expression of someone who had already decided how to spend money. I hadn't even removed from the envelope. Over coffee in their living room, my mother brought up surgery costs with the skill of a practiced actress. They'd found a problem with my father's heart, she explained, tears filling her eyes with theatrical precision. Insurance wouldn't cover everything, leaving them financially devastated. It's a matter of life and death, she said, reaching across to clutch my hand. But we can't come up with that kind of money so suddenly. I didn't hesitate to offer most of my first paycheck, my hands shaking with excitement, rather than the fear I feel now. I'd planned to frame my first dollar earned, maybe celebrate with a nice dinner. Instead, I watched my mother count the bills with practiced efficiency that should have been my first warning. "Are you sure this is enough?" I asked, worried my contribution wasn't sufficient for such important surgery. "Oh, sweetheart," my mother sighed with theatrical tenderness. "It's a wonderful start, but medical bills pile up so quickly. We might need more help as things progress." I nodded eagerly, already calculating overtime shifts and skipped meals. How naive I was to think love could only flow in one direction. But looking back with clear eyes, I see the signs I missed. My father's continued drinking and smoking after his life-saving surgery. The expensive furniture that appeared shortly after my donation. The vacation photos they posted while claiming they couldn't afford basic medical care. 2 years ago, when my brother's future became my financial responsibility. "Ethan really wants to go to private college." My mother's voice was thick with manufactured tierce over the phone. "I can't bear to give up on that boy's future. He's worked so hard." The silence stretched just long enough to make me uncomfortable. Just long enough to make me desperate to fix their problem. A technique I now recognize as expertly applied emotional manipulation. I postponed my own graduate school plans without hesitation. To help pay for his tuition, I liquidated my entire savings account, $150,000 that had taken 2 years of careful budgeting to accumulate. "Thank you, sis." Ethan's gratitude seemed genuine then. "I'll definitely graduate and pay you back. You're the best sister anyone could ask for." But over these 2 years, the requests never stopped. Every month brought a new crisis requiring immediate financial intervention. Textbook fees that increased exponentially. Training costs for programs that never materialized. Job hunting expenses that somehow required thousands of dollars. Ethan is currently a sophomore, and I was expected to continue this level of support for 2 more years, making me the perfect ATM for their various needs and wants. 1 year ago, when my vacation dreams dissolved into home repairs, the call came just before typhoon season, timed perfectly to maximize urgency. My mother's voice carried panic about roof damage, though I now suspect that panic concerned their vacation budget rather than actual home repairs. "Part of the roof came off and the leak is terrible," she explained, painting vivid pictures of family heirlooms being destroyed. The urgency made questioning seem heartless. She sent a professional estimate within hours, $85,000 for emergency repairs. I canceled my Europe trip without hesitation, sacrificing the vacation I'd planned and saved for over an entire year. When friends expressed sympathy, I felt proud telling them it was for family. The sacrifice felt noble, meaningful. But yesterday's video revealed the devastating truth. My vacation savings had become my mother's plastic surgery fund. Roof repairs can wait until the leak gets really bad. Her voice had echoed with casual indifference. Lily is such a warrior. Just say it's urgent, and she sends money immediately. Back to the present, the morning after my world collapsed. I stand before my bathroom mirror looking at a stranger with hollow eyes. The reflection shows a 28-year-old woman who sent over $200,000 to her family over 3 years of systematic exploitation. Dark circles ring my eyes like bruises. I haven't been sleeping well for months, my body responding to family contact with Pavlovian anxiety. Shoulders tensing, stomach clenching, heart rate spiking in anticipation of the next emergency. This isn't love. This has never been love. This is economic abuse dressed up in family obligation and emotional manipulation. The morning after my world collapsed, I sit on the train watching familiar scenery blur past, while my internal landscape has been completely transformed. Everything looks the same, but I see it through new eyes stripped of illusions. I send Jessica a message. I need to talk about something important today. Are you free for lunch? It's urgent. The word urgent tastes different now, tainted by my family's casual abuse of genuine emergencies. Jessica has been watching my family's endless emergencies for 3 years, and I now realize she'd been trying to warn me with subtle hints I was too blind to see. Her responses had grown increasingly concerned over time, though I'd interpreted her worry as simple friendship rather than recognition of abuse patterns. At 1 p.m., we meet at our usual cafe. Jessica takes one look at my face and shifts into crisis mode. What happened? You look like you haven't slept. I tell her everything, showing her the devastating video evidence. Her expression cycles through surprise, anger, and deep sadness that reflects my own grief for the family I thought I had. Lily, this is horrible beyond words, she says, hands trembling as she sets down her coffee. I've been worried about your family dynamic for years, but I never imagined anything this calculated and cruel. Her validation feels like oxygen to someone suffocating. For the first time since watching the video, I don't feel completely insane. Normal families don't depend on one daughter this extensively, she continues. Normal families don't create constant financial emergencies requiring immediate solutions. But decades of conditioning don't disappear overnight. But their family, I hear myself saying automatically. Being family doesn't excuse financial abuse. Jessica's interruption is firm. This isn't love, Lily. This is exploitation with a pretty bow. The word exploitation strips away all emotional camouflage my family used to disguise their behavior. You should talk to Professor Michael from college, Jessica suggests. He's now a psychological counselor specializing in family dysfunction. That evening, my phone rings with my mother's familiar tone. The sound that used to bring anticipation now triggers stress that makes my entire body tense. Lily, how are you, sweetheart? My mother's voice carries practiced warmth, but I can hear the calculation underneath. We have a situation that needs immediate attention. Immediate attention is their code for money, I realize. How many times have I heard this exact phrasing followed by requests for thousands of dollars? What kind of situation? I ask, keeping my voice neutral while my heart pounds. It's your father. He needs to see a specialist, and insurance is giving us trouble. We need $40,000 for consultation and initial treatments. $40,000. The audacity is breathtaking, especially coming less than 24 hours after discovering their true opinion of me. I see, I say, letting silence stretch uncomfortably. In the past, I would already be calculating how to access that money quickly. So we were hoping you could help us out, she continues when my silence makes clear I won't volunteer assistance. Just temporarily, of course. We'll pay you back when insurance gets sorted out. Pay me back. Almost funny now, given they've never repaid a single dollar over the years. I refuse, I say simply. The silence that follows is so complete I wonder if the call disconnected. Then I hear sharp intake of breath. What did you say? My mother asks, her voice completely different. Smaller, uncertain, lacking confidence that comes from knowing your victim will comply. I refuse to give you any more money, I repeat clearly. I don't understand, she says, but her tone suggests she understands perfectly. I think you understand exactly what's happening, I reply, especially after the video you accidentally sent me last night. I can practically hear her face go pale. The silence stretches endlessly before she responds with a voice from very far away. What video? The one where you, Dad, and Ethan discuss your little ATM girl, and how easy it is to manipulate me into emptying my savings. I say with clinical precision. Would you like me to play it back? The phone hangs up with a sound like a gunshot. In that sharp click, I hear the end of everything, and the beginning of my liberation. The next day brings inevitable escalation. Lily, your father is here to see you, the receptionist says, concern in her voice. My father never comes to my workplace unless desperate, which means they've escalated from phone calls to public pressure less than 24 hours after my refusal. In our lobby, my father looks out of place among sleek furniture, his face flushed with alcohol despite the early hour. My daughter has abandoned her family, he announces loudly enough for the entire office to hear. I never raised a daughter who would forget her debt to her parents. The words are designed to shame me into compliance through public humiliation. But instead of collapse, I feel cold fury settle over me like armor. The manipulation is so transparent it finally breaks the last chain of guilt binding me to their version of family love. Let's continue this privately, I say calmly, gesturing toward an empty conference room with professional composure that surprises us both. Inside, away from his audience, my father's performance crumbles. He looks smaller, older, more desperate than the commanding figure he projects publicly. What's gotten into you, Lily? He demands, but his voice lacks intimidating edge. Family helps family. That's how we raised you. Is that what you call what happened in Aunt Susan's video? I reply, pulling out my smartphone. I press play, setting the phone between us like evidence in a trial. His own voice fills the room. Our little ATM girl. Just say family duty, and she'll empty her savings. Watching my father's face drain of color as he hears his own words is the most satisfying moment I've experienced in years. This was taken out of context, he stammers, eyes avoiding mine. We were just blowing off steam after drinks. Recorded facts don't have context, I reply with calm precision. They simply are what they are. He leaves without another word, but I hear his parting shot from the hallway. You're a disgrace to this family. The accusation that would have destroyed me yesterday barely registers today. That afternoon, Miss Anderson, our HR director, calls me to her office. About this morning's incident, she begins carefully. We're here to support you through whatever family situation you're dealing with. I find myself explaining the situation more openly than intended. Ms. Anderson listens without judgment, occasionally nodding with recognition. What you're describing sounds like economic abuse, she says. The company has resources available, including counseling services and legal consultation if needed. Getting workplace support strengthens my resolve in unexpected ways. Knowing my professional life won't be destroyed gives me freedom to make choices based on what's right rather than what's safe. That weekend, Professor Michael's office feels like sanctuary. The space promotes calm with soft lighting, comfortable chairs arranged in a circle, and walls lined with books about psychology and human resilience. Lily, Jessica, it's been too long. Michael greets us with the warm smile I remember from college. Though his hair has gone silver and his face shows gentle lines from years of listening to others' pain. I tell my story with surprising clarity, building a case against my family with prosecutorial precision. 3 years of systematic exploitation laid out chronologically, from first manipulation to the devastating video revelation. Michael listens with focused professional attention, taking careful notes and asking clarifying questions that help me see patterns I hadn't recognized. This is textbook economic abuse, Michael states with certainty. The systematic exploitation of financial resources, emotional blackmail using family obligation, escalation when previous tactics stop working. These are all recognized patterns in abusive family systems. But they're my family. I hear myself saying, old programming asserting itself. Don't I owe them something for raising me? The fact that someone shares your DNA doesn't give them the right to exploit you. Michael responds gently but firmly. Good parents prepare children for independence, not dependence. They celebrate their children's success, not figure out how to profit from it. He plays a recording from another client, a similar case of family exploitation. The voice is casual and cruel. Just tell him it's for family business, and he'll hand over his paycheck. The kid's so desperate for approval, he'd bankrupt himself. The similarity to my situation is breathtaking. I'm not unique. I'm part of a pattern these predators know how to exploit with practiced efficiency. The hardest part for survivors to accept, Michael continues, is that to your family, you're not a daughter. You're an asset to be managed and harvested. That evening, I attend my first support group meeting. The fluorescent lighting is harsh, the folding chairs uncomfortable, but the atmosphere is one of mutual understanding I've never experienced. Maria speaks first, a woman whose husband's family has drained her salary for 5 years. They call it contributing to household, but somehow my contribution is my entire salary while everyone else's is optional. Ken shares next. His mother convinced him to invest his inheritance in business ventures that never materialized. Every time I questioned where money was going, she'd cry about how ungrateful I was being. When my turn comes, I tell my story without crying, though my voice shakes. The hardest part isn't the money. I hear myself saying, it's realizing that people you love most see you as a resource rather than a person. After the meeting, several people offer contact information and support. For the first time in years, I don't feel alone. My family doesn't intend to surrender their primary income source without a fight. Attacks escalate in predictable yet shocking ways. My phone buzzes with calls from relatives repeating scripts about family obligation and my sudden selfishness. Anonymous calls reach my workplace, expressing concern about my mental state and fitness for employment. Neighbors start giving me strange looks. The coordination is breathtaking, a comprehensive campaign to destroy my reputation and force compliance through social pressure. The culmination comes at Uncle Mike's birthday party, an annual gathering I know is a trap but attend anyway, knowing non-attendance will be used as further evidence of my abandonment. The moment I enter the community center, coordinated hostility hits like a physical force. We've all been so worried about you. Aunt Margaret greets me with a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Your mother is devastated by your recent changes in attitude. The evening proceeds as orchestrated intervention, with relatives delivering variations of the same lecture. Each conversation follows identical patterns: concern for my mental state, reminders of family obligations, suggestions that I'm being influenced by outsiders, but I came prepared. Hidden in my purse is my smartphone loaded with video evidence, plus printed bank statements and detailed timelines of their exploitation. I think there's been miscommunication about recent events, I announce, standing in the room center with calm confidence. I'd like to clarify exactly what's been happening. I connect my phone to the community center's audio system. I have information I'd like to share with everyone. Uncle Mike tries to interrupt. Lily, this isn't the time. Actually, this is exactly the time. I reply with serene determination. Since you've all been discussing my behavior based on incomplete information, you should hear the complete story. I press play. My family's voices fill the center with crystal clarity. their casual cruelty echoing off walls decorated with birthday streamers. Our little ATM girl. Just say family duty, and she'll empty her savings. The room goes silent as 20 relatives hear the truth about the family they thought they knew. When the video ends, silence is so complete I hear ventilation humming overhead. Aunt Susan speaks first, voice thick with tears. "Lily, I'm so sorry. I recorded that because I suspected something was wrong, but I never imagined it was this calculated." Uncle Mike stands slowly, face red with redirected anger. "This is absolutely disgusting. Using family relationships to steal money. This isn't family behavior. This is criminal." One by one, relatives apologize and offer to help pursue legal action. My parents slip out the back door like the cowards they are. Only Ethan remains, sitting alone among birthday cake debris. "I really didn't know how bad it was," he says quietly. "It doesn't matter now," I reply honestly. "What matters is that it stops." We shake hands like strangers, which is essentially what we are. 3 months later, I sit in family court mediation, surrounded by evidence of systematic exploitation. Judge Roberts, a woman with steel gray hair and no-nonsense glasses, spreads my organized evidence across the table with surgical care. Bank statements, emails, text screenshots, 3 years of abuse laid bare under harsh lighting. My mother sits across looking smaller than ever, dabbing at eyes with tissues and theatrical wounded motherhood, but her mascara never smudges. My father slouches like a deflated balloon, avoiding eye contact. The evidence shows clear systematic economic exploitation, Judge Roberts states with clinical precision. Respondents used family relationships and emotional manipulation to extract significant sums over an extended period. My mother makes final appeal to sentiment. "We're talking about blood family. Families help each other. That's what love looks like. Blood relationship doesn't provide legal justification for economic abuse." Judge Roberts responds with authority. "If anything, violating family trust makes this behavior more serious, not less." The court finds respondents engaged in systematic economic abuse, she continues. Their demands were not legitimate requests for help, but calculated exploitation for personal gain. The court issues a restraining order prohibiting contact for any purpose, including financial requests. Violation will result in criminal charges. The gavel falls like thunder, marking the end of 3 years of exploitation and beginning of my freedom. Walking out, I feel lighter than I have in years, like invisible chains have finally broken. Michael and Jessica wait on courthouse steps, faces showing relief and pride. "How do you feel?" Jessica asks. "Free," I reply, the word tasting like sunrise after endless night. For the first time in 3 years, completely free. 1 year later, my new apartment represents everything my old life wasn't: spacious, bright, decorated with joy rather than practicality. Sunlight streams through east-facing windows, filling the living room with golden hope. Walls display photographs from my delayed European vacation, art chosen because it speaks to me. Certificates from courses I've taken now that my money serves my dreams. My bank balance grows steadily for the first time in my adult life. But more important than financial recovery is psychological healing, rebuilding self-worth and trusting my judgment. The Europe trip I finally took 6 months ago was everything I dreamed. Walking ancient Roman streets, watching sunsets, hiking Scottish highlands, all felt like reclaiming hostage parts of myself. Every day brings small freedom reminders. Choosing restaurants based on preference rather than affordability after sending money home. Buying proper fitting clothes instead of making do. Accepting social invitations without calculating costs against family needs. But the most meaningful change is in relationships. No longer constantly stressed about money or carrying manufactured crisis weight, I have emotional energy for genuine friendships and growth. Jessica and I take regular weekend trips now, exploring trails and towns I never had time or money to visit when every resource flowed to my family. Our friendship has deepened into the mutual support I now understand represents real chosen family. My consulting work flourished since gaining confidence to value my contributions appropriately. Free from desperate financial pressure, I negotiate fair contracts and refuse projects misaligned with my values. Boundary setting skills learned through necessity with family prove invaluable professionally too. Clients who might have exploited my previous people-pleasing encounter someone who communicates clearly about expectations and compensation. The most rewarding part of my new life is involvement with the support organization that helped during my darkest period. Standing behind podiums and community centers, I share my story with audiences who understand exactly what I'm describing. Each telling makes me stronger and more determined to help others recognize their worth. Economic abuse by family members is under-recognized domestic violence, I tell audiences. It hides behind family obligation language, making it nearly impossible for victims to recognize. After each engagement, people approach with stories that break and fill my heart simultaneously. Margaret, whose adult children convinced her to reverse mortgage her home. David, whose wife accumulated debt in his name while guilting him about being selfish. Each story follows familiar patterns, but each person sharing takes the first step toward liberation. Recovery isn't just about getting money back, I tell them. It's about rebuilding self-worth, learning to trust your judgment, understanding that real love doesn't come with financial obligations. 6 months ago brought an unexpected encounter. At the downtown bookstore, browsing legal references for boundary setting workshops, someone called my name. I turned to see Ethan in the self-help section with books about family dysfunction and addiction recovery. He looked older, thinner, exhausted by difficult realizations about himself and people he'd loved. "I've been hoping I'd run into you," he said quietly. "I wanted to apologize and tell you that you were right about everything." We ended up in a coffee shop, talking like diplomats from warring nations attempting peace treaties. "After you cut us off, everything fell apart," Ethan told me. Mom and Dad fought constantly about money, blaming each other for losing their reliable income source. They actually called you that. The casual cruelty of being termed reliable income source, rather than daughter, still shocked me. They divorced, he continued heavily. Mom moved back with Grandma, Dad's drinking worsened, and I realized our whole family structure was built around exploiting you. Without your money, nothing held us together. I dropped out of college, he admitted. I couldn't stand being there knowing it was paid with money you'd sacrificed dreams to provide. I'm working now, taking night social work classes. I want to help people who've been through what you experienced. His transformation surprised me more than anything else he could have shared. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said as our conversation ended. "I know I participated in hurting you, but I wanted you to know your courage in standing up to them changed my life too." We parted with handshakes rather than hugs, acknowledging that while forgiveness might be possible, rebuilding wasn't necessary or advisable. Now, sitting in my sun-filled apartment on quiet Sunday morning, I reflect on the journey from victim to survivor to advocate. My morning routine feels like freedom celebration. Coffee made exactly as I like it, breakfast at my own pace while reading chosen books. Music at whatever volume brings joy rather than avoiding disturbance from demanding phone calls. This week's calendar shows chosen appointments rather than inherited obligations. Lunch with Jessica, exciting client meeting, support group where I'll help facilitate newcomer discussions. My bank statement shows numbers that still bring disbelief. Growing account balance instead of regular draining. Achievable savings goals. Financial plans serving my dreams rather than others' demands. But the most meaningful change isn't visible externally. It's quiet confidence from trusting my judgment, peace from relationships based on mutual respect rather than financial utility, joy from building life serving my values rather than others' appetites. My phone buzzes with text from last week's support group attendee. I did it. I said no to my brother's money request, and the world didn't end. Thank you for showing me it was possible. These messages arrive regularly. Small victories from people learning to value themselves enough to set boundaries with family members who confuse love with exploitation. The irony isn't lost that the family who tried reducing me to nothing but an ATM inadvertently taught lessons about worth, boundaries, and authentic love that made me stronger than my compliance years ever could. I think sometimes about the woman I was 3 years ago, working overtime to fund others' dreams while neglecting mine, canceling vacations for emergencies that were disguised theft, accepting approval crumbs as payment for substantial financial sacrifice. That woman seems like a stranger I feel compassion for, but could never become again. Tonight I'll call Jessica about next weekend's hiking trip. Spontaneous joy impossible when every spare dollar had to be reserved for the next family emergency. Tomorrow I'll meet a potential client whose project aligns with my values and pays rates reflecting my skills' true value. The girl once called Little ATM has grown into a woman who knows exactly what she's worth, far more than any money her family extracted from her accounts. In learning to say no to those who would exploit her kindness, she finally learned to say yes to herself. And that is the most valuable transaction of all.